everyone, hope you're doing so well and having an amazing week, and welcome to this little review of the Winsor & Newton watercolour paper. And also there will be in this video a comparison between my current favourite paper at the moment, which is the Arches hot press paper, and I'm also going to do like a demo, so I'm just going to show you quickly the painting that I created on this paper. You're all having an incredible Christmas break. So coming up on my channel, I really want to show all the other paintings I've been working on. So here are just some of them. This one in the middle is actually half an underpainting, half a sort of painting. It's not actually anywhere near finished. But yeah, I just really want to show like some paintings in progress, as well as ones that are already in my Etsy store, because it would be great to do one of those videos again. Well, as I'm super close to filming the video about gel mediums, which I did promise ages ago, also managed to watch a movie at last, and so hopefully I'll be doing a film review as well. I can't wait. It's actually an old classic movie, but I do really like reviewing those because I feel like finding a movie from the past is always so exciting to me. It's such a revelation, and then I love to share it with everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, of course. I will see you soon, and do have a very Merry Christmas. I hope to get a video up before then, but you never know. If I don't, have an incredible day, and I will see you soon. So enjoy the video. Okay everyone, so here is the watercolour paper. This is the professional watercolour paper by Winsor & Newton, and I got the A5 size, but obviously it does come in lots of different sizes, and I think the pad was around £10, maybe £8 to £10, so it is a more pricey watercolour paper, so just so you're aware, it's one of the more high-end ones, and I got 12 sheets. Now this is a cold pressed paper, so there is a grain on the paper. I would say it's about a medium grain, fine to medium. It didn't feel rough or anything like that. And just be aware that obviously with cold pressed papers, they are not as smooth as the hot press, which is the one I'm showing right now, which is the Arches paper. This is my favourite at the moment. I really do enjoy using this paper because the paint flows really well on it, and also it has a nice luminosity when you after your painting is dried. It looks really nice, but of course it is very smooth, so you do have to be aware that your water will run across the page, whereas of course with cold pressed papers usually they tend to suck in the water a bit more, so you will have, like, if you're somebody who likes doing really strong washes, then you will prefer the cold pressed. Here are the watercolours I'm going to be using. They are the Kuretake Gansai Tambi watercolour set. This is a set from Japan, which I absolutely adore. It is my favourite watercolour set that I have. Now, I don't actually own that many. I think I have maybe 4 or 5 watercolour sets, and just out of the ones that I have, I really do prefer the Japanese ones so far, because I really like not only the colour selection, but the way that the watercolours themselves blend. The one thing I would say though, my only disadvantage to this palette is just that it doesn't have that many really deep or dark colours, and that's the only thing that I don't love about it. So I think I might get another one which has maybe more dark colours in it, and then maybe do a review of that. If you guys are interested, do let me know. I'm just doing a wash here, and the brush is the De La Rowney Graduate series. I literally just picked this brush off Amazon because I just typed in watercolour brush and watercolour brush sets. And the thing is, De La Rowney, they do some really good watercolour sets, and I actually have one which is really nice. It's a small like travel set, and so I thought their brushes will probably be really good, so I just selected this one, and it is really nice. So I'm just doing a wash here. I like to do a really light wash in the first layer, and then after that I do add a little bit more paint each time as I go, to sort of build up the layers really slowly. This is quite a tedious method of painting. I know that there are some watercolour artists that they will literally do a painting in one layer and sort of put tons of pigment in the first layer and then just wait for it to dry. I just got into the habit of, because I'm kind of traditionally an oil painter as well, I got into the habit of sort of layering and doing this layering process. But of course it doesn't really matter which way you paint, and I think if I was to do a still life, for example, it would be less layers, because you don't have to build up the layers quite as much when you're doing still life and things. But when it comes to a fantasy landscape and I have to get all the trees in the background and do lots of detail, I do like to add quite a few layers. I'm not using any reference photos for this painting. This is just completely from my head because I just really wanted to test out the paper. But obviously, when I am creating any sort of fantasy painting, if I'm painting an animal that I don't know how to paint, then I will use reference photos. Like I will use either Unsplash, or there's one called Pexels, which is really good. And they're all copyright free, so you don't need to worry about, the copyright issue. And usually I actually change them beyond recognition anyway, but I do stick to those two websites. It's really important to go for copyright free images because you don't want to sort of steal other people's images and other people's photography. And so on Unsplash, usually if you just type in whatever animal you want, then they do have really great different pictures, and they are so professionally done. Like I don't think it's necessary really to go elsewhere from those two sites. I found them to be amazing. And yeah, so usually I do change the image anyway, but when it comes to just painting landscapes and things, very often, if they're fantasy ones, they would just come straight from my head. And even painting certain animals now I can do without checking for a reference, particularly bunny rabbits. So obviously this is a cotton watercolour paper, which is amazing because with the cotton papers, you don't get as much buckling and as many problems as you get with using cellulose paper when you add a lot of water. And so with cellulose papers, when you really put tons of washes on, usually you do get quite a buckled paper, so you need to sort of tape it down. Whereas as you can see, this is a pad, it's not a block. I haven't taped it down and there's very little buckling at the end. So I really enjoyed using the paper. I found it took washes really, really well, and the texture of it was really nice. It's slightly textured, as I said, but it's very smooth to paint on. I know people might be wondering which is better, the cold press Ash or this Winsor & Newton professional cotton one, because that always seems to be the endless debate, which watercolour paper can beat out the Ash one. And I have to say that personally, when I tried the Ash cold pressed first, I really did not like it. I found that it was, because the surface is quite rough, and I found that when I was trying to make some fine details, I found there was a slight drag when using my paintbrush over it. I also found I often got really mixed results with it in terms of like my paintings themselves. However, there is some massive advantage of the Ash one, which is that the colour usually of the watercolours comes out really, really bright on the Ash, so you don't actually have to do as many layers, I find. But I did actually really enjoy this one too, this paper, and I think that the colour did come out very bright on it, more so than I was expecting, and also the contrast came out really well as well. So if you're looking for a cheaper alternative to the Ash, I think this is slightly cheaper. I'm not entirely sure though, because sometimes on Amazon they do run discounts, and so you could keep checking. But if you're looking for a cheaper alternative, I would highly recommend this paper. To be perfectly honest, I really enjoyed using it. I think it was so easy to use. I didn't have any issues with it. I didn't have any like feathering or weirdness. So yeah, I'm totally happy with it, and I really enjoy it. I think the bigger question is actually for you all watching, whether you actually like my painting or not, whether it came well or not, because for me, I feel like I'm not really a very good judge sometimes. I think, especially when it comes to watercolours, whenever I paint with watercolour, I really hate my paintings after, like, as soon as I painted them. I look at it and I think, what the heck? That's not what I imagined. I wanted it to be completely different. But this one actually came out quite close to what I was imagining. But again, it's only when I look back at my watercolours like a month from now that I will say, okay, that's actually not that bad, or I might actually quite like it. It's not the same with oils. Whenever I paint with oils, if I've done a good painting, I will think to myself straight away, this one has been a success and I'm really proud of it. It doesn't happen all the time. In fact, it's kind of, again, because one is so self-critical, it's not that often, but it does happen. Whereas with watercolours, unfortunately, I've not had that experience yet. I'm still waiting for that moment where I'm like, I'm really pleased with that. But yeah, as I say, it hasn't happened. Okay, so in terms of movies, like I did finally manage to see a film. So yes, at last. But the thing is, I think I'm going to review it on my next video because it's quite funny to talk about. So it would be great to do it like directly to camera. But what I noticed was that I do actually have a tendency to skip past certain genres of films. Like I tend to go for really the same type of movie, and I wonder if maybe that's a thing that everyone does. Like we just tend to gravitate towards what we're comfortable with. And so I really am trying to push myself to watch things that are more out of my comfort zone. Now, I'm not the same in documentaries. Documentaries I can watch on absolutely any subject, and I try to be as diverse as possible and broaden my mind as much as possible. But when it comes to films, I feel like there are certain areas where I just don't like to go. So I've noticed that with horror films, like for example, I haven't seen many classic horror films. I've started one and then I've just been so scared that I haven't like finished. And the one that springs to mind was The Omen. I've never seen The Omen, and I think that people would be horrified by that because, especially people I know they would be horrified, so I don't confess to anyone, and yet I'm confessing on my channel and I know they're going to see this. But like, I watched the first 5 minutes, and something about creepy kids and like possession, the devil, and all that type of stuff, it just reminds me of The Exorcist. And still, to me, The Exorcist is the scariest film I've ever seen. People will laugh at me for that as well because they're like, oh, well, the effects are so bad and everything, but I still have a massive fear of that film. I've never really seen it. I saw it in fast forward because I couldn't actually watch it because it was that scary to me. And what's interesting, I think, is some movies when you see when you're a kid and you have it has a lasting impression on your mind. And then later on in life, when you revisit it, you're like, gosh, that wasn't scary at all. Like, how could I have been scared about that? For example, Jaws, the movie Jaws, I was terrified of when I was a kid. And just seeing the shark in the water, it just freaked me out so badly. But obviously, as an adult, when you look back at that, I mean, now I just think it's hilarious. I think I saw Jaws a while back, like a little bit of it when it came on TV, and I was laughing all the way through, thinking, how on earth could I have been scared by this? But The Exorcist, on the other hand, is not one of those films. It's one that it's ingrained in my mind, and I don't think I can get rid of the fear. And I think even if I was to see it again, which I have attempted to on numerous occasions, and have never managed to, I don't think I would be able to see it. Like, I don't think I would be able to get rid of the fear. But quite proudly, I did actually manage to see two films that I had been terrified to see for a very long time. This was a while back, but I did actually manage to get through them. One was Rosemary's Baby, which I had seen like a clip of before, and it really, really freaked me out. And I thought, there's no way I'm ever going to be able to sit through this movie. And I did actually manage to watch that. I did look away probably about 5 times, and especially at the end. But I did manage to get through it. And I'm so proud because now I can proudly say to people, especially arty people, like, hey, I've seen that. I've seen Rosemary's Baby, and have you? And quite a lot of people shy away from it, I think. And actually, it's a brilliant film. I do really think it is so clever and so good. And the other one is Suspiria, which is the Italian film. And once again, I mean, out of the two of them, though, Suspiria really scared me. I mean, because I'd seen bits of it on YouTube, and I thought, there's no way I could ever watch this movie. It's so terrifying. And I don't actually think it's as scary as I was expecting. Like, I feel like it's about 80% not scary at all. But once again, it's an absolute classic. It's a really, really incredible film. And I really love the actual story behind it because it's quite a rarely successful movie that is about witches. And what I mean by that is not witches in a comical way, but witches in a like spooky, properly scary way, like that you would actually feel terrified about. And so I just was totally in awe of it. And do I think I could watch it again though? Probably not. I definitely think I'd be too scared. So here is a comparison between the two paintings, and I do hope you like it. I have no idea why the screen is so small, but for me paper was an absolute win and a great alternative to some more expensive papers. So take care guys, and see you soon.